Good morning. My emphasis this morning still is on this wonderful book that I wrote. It's called Intelligent Design and the African Ontological and Epistemological Aesthetics, a legal philosophical discourse. The biggest question here is whether or not Africa had a God, or was our God imported? Do we really have a God? As Africans, and I speak that with maximum respect to the theologians without trying to be sarcastic in any way. But listen, I read from the book because I make a summary of those in my book here called Magnum Opus, a summary of some of the things that I talk about in terms of the intelligent design. The elemental concept of British justice are part of the essentials of civilization that will bring to Africa, along with vaccinations, drains, literacy, and God. Think about that. Pat Julius Lewis, native courts and British justice in Africa. That was in 1944. So, I get a bearing here that God, perhaps, according to the citation here, is actually incepted, brought by some foreigner here to Africa. But listen, the book focuses on how the idea of God permeated what they call the legal ideology of African nation states during the colonial period. It's debated the best way to instill the principles of English justice to these so-called savage people and barbarous people was to bring in the element of God. By the way, that also explains some of you who probably got to know something about what they call the Willie Lynch letters, where they say that where they used to bring the Africans, they were called, the black Africans were called niggers, and the only way to make them subjected to whatever the white person wanted them to do forever was to, they say, get the nigger, tie one hand on the side of a horse, the other hand on the side of another horse, tie the leg one side of the horse, tie another on the side of the horse, strip this nigger's skin off, set fire under their private files, and hit these horses so bad that they tear this man into pieces. Keep the mind. Their argument was, take the mind out of them, but keep the body. Let them have the muscles, and put the fear of God in them so that they can be useful for future generation. Take the mind, keep the body, put the fear of God in them. That's why perhaps other scholars have argued and said religion is the opium of the people. But listen, the pain of all of us human beings is always trying to fill the spiritual man, and the death exacerbates the problem. So for none in our time, her lifetime has actually returned, for those who have left us. So we are in a quest in terms of trying to receive different revelations. Therefore, what we call God may actually be a vehicle or a metaphor for us to help understand how we relate with one another in terms of our spirituality, if you like. So then, who is God? To the Hindu, it's probably a cow. The Christian, Jesus Christ. To the Muslim, Muhammad. To the Chinese, Confucius. These are simply metaphors that lead us to the true God. If you read Anselm's book, Jesus of Nazareth, the Zealot, this guy who had actually had a degree in the New Testament and also a master's in the New Testament and a PhD in the New Testament, in spite of the fact that he was a Muslim, his argument is that I choose to follow Islam as a metaphor, a better metaphor in terms of leading me to God, rather than these other religions. So I do not dispute the fact that these other religions, including Christianity, are not true, but they are simply metaphors that lead us to the bigger God. So the question I'm asking in terms of the Africans, did we have an African God? Or was the God that we have incepted upon us? Was he pronounced on us? You have to read interesting articles by Chinua Achebe, for example, where Ezeliu, some of you, and the Hour of God, where he brings that aspect of God, whether or not this God has actually, escaped and abandoned his people when the suffering comes. So I make those interesting discussions in this book called intelligent design. So please find this book at luogo.org or suegeneslawup.com, and be blessed as you have a rendezvous with this wonderful book. God bless you.